city working, copy machine running, son of a gun!
Oh, hey, come on.
Now, this film was highly requested. After doing Stella, I knew it was the perfect time to scratch this off of the list. This film doesn't get talked about much, and honestly, I've probably watched it twice, but I must admit, I really enjoyed it this go around. Drew was an amazing character, but I hated the fact that people around him wanted him to be everything but himself. And worse, took advantage of his innocent, caring nature. With that being said, I noticed some things while watching this movie, but before we get to that, it's time to recap. So let's get into it. So the movie starts with us meeting one of our main characters, Drew, as he's riding down the street. The year is 1976, and Drew and his family are from upstate New York. We also meet Drew's one and only friend, Lago, a doll, who Drew blames for having them out so late. Same time Drew is racing home, his dad, Kenny, comes into his room to talk to him. Kenny doesn't even realize he's not in his bed because Drew's clever self has rigged up his room to make it look and sound like he's there. And this worked for a hot minute until Drew came leaping through his window and shocked the hell out of his dad. His dad instantly starts going off, causing his mom, Brenda, to come in and see what's going on. Kenny starts going off about the doll, even attempting to throw the doll out the window, but he changes his mind and puts the doll down. Kenny and Brenda talk as they pack up the car to go on their summer trip to Martha's Vineyard. Kenny was an ex-Black Panther, so of course he was very stern and militant. He complains to Brenda about Drew's doll, Lago, and how he's too old at 16 to be running around talking to a doll. Brenda dismisses his concerns, and you can tell she is the more sympathetic parent. But we fast forward to Drew and his parents making it to Martha's Vineyard. Frances, Brenda's sister, is the first to greet them. Her husband, Spencer, follows her out. He speaks to Brenda, but not Kenny. There's some obvious tension there. As Frances, Brenda, and Drew step inside the house, Brenda mentions how it's great to be back. Frances mentions how she's glad she's back and also brings up the fact that Brenda wouldn't even be here if her house didn't catch on fire. We'll learn about this mysterious fire later. We meet Frances and Brenda's mother, Evelyn. There is some obvious tension here as well.
And give Mama some sugar.
Not you, baby.
That was so rude. How do you acknowledge my son, but not me though? I would have instantly got back in the car and gone home, because what we're not gonna do is that. But Evelyn mentions that it took Brenda so long to come and see her, and Brenda compliments her mother, telling her she looks good, but I guess her mother didn't feel the same way about her.
Looking good.
Thank you, Brenda.
Just this interaction alone justifies Brenda and Kenny not wanting to come see her family. I mean, if this is what she has to put up with, I understand. And then Evelyn asks where the Black Panther is, not even able to mention her husband by his name. Y'all, this is too much, and they haven't even been here for an hour. We go to Drew upstairs as he walks into his cousin Junior's room. He is not excited to be there, and he's complaining to himself, which gets the attention of Junior, who's really happy to see him. Junior is around the same age as Drew, but it's very clear that Junior is your typical teenage boy who is into himself, open to socializing, and very much into the opposite sex. Brenda comes in to check on Drew and asks him to go to the beach with them. Drew is not interested and wants to stay put. Brenda acknowledges that Drew is leery about new places, and Drew tells Brenda that he might go later, but for now, he just wants to get settled in. Drew ends up taking a nap, but when he wakes up, he sees this young lady on the beach. He's instantly attracted to her, and now, of course, He wants to get outside, but by the time he and Lago make it there, she's gone. And since he was outside already, he decided to take his bike out and go for a walk. He runs into Junior, who encourages him to go to the Inkwell beach. It's here where we see Spencer telling Kenny the history of the beach. So the Inkwell beach was discovered by black people in the 1890s and earned its name due to nearby whites making a joke about the skin color of the beachgoers. And Kenny wasn't too receptive of this fact.
Bougie niggas, as far as the eye can see. Downright scary if you ask me.
It's here where we see some conflict between Spencer and Kenny. Spencer is a black Republican and very proud. Spencer mentions how Kenny should be happy to see black people doing well, that this is what the leaders he often brings up fought for.
That this beach, our own little part of the island, is the result of economic struggle, who have attained the American dream.
But Kenny had questions.
And what about the black folks who weren't allowed to make it? Where's their Inkwell?
Coney Island?
Yeah, these two are never going to see eye to eye. We go to Junior and Drew walking on the beach, and Junior gave Drew tips on how to snatch off girls' bathing suits in the water. Real sleazeball energy already at such a tender age. Drew is hesitant about going into the water. He's afraid that there may be sharks, and Junior teases him about it, but when Drew asks him if he ever goes into the water, he says this.
Hell no, I ain't going. You think I'm crazy?
Spencer attempts to talk to Kenny again by asking if Drew is okay after setting the garage on fire. Now, Brenda had told Frances not to tell anybody, but that went way over her head, I guess. Spencer mentions how arson investigators discovered lighter fluid all over the garage and insists that Kenny and Brenda take Drew to a family friend who's a child psychiatrist. Now, Kenny declines their offer. He's not open to his child seeing a shrink, in his words. And Spencer assumes that it's the cost that's preventing Kenny from seeing the psychiatrist, which sends Kenny into a tantrum. And just when Kenny got through defending his son, Drew comes up and does this.
Like my seashells? You know, seashells? Get it, my seashells? Junior.
We fast forward to Junior getting ready to go to a party, and Junior asked Drew what he was wearing, and he was not pleased at the fact that Drew had his party attire on already, and it wasn't to his liking.
These are corduroys, Drew, man. They make noise when you walk. You can start a fire.
We go to Spencer and Kenny having another debate, this time about Malcolm X and Martin Luther King. Why does this dude have Nixon on his wall? Child. Spencer talks down on Malcolm X, calling him a hoodlum who was killed by common hoodlums. He considered Martin to be a good guy and stated that Malcolm was just a troublemaker. Kenny, of course, did not like this and expressed to Spencer how important history is to him.
Because my blackness, my history is important to me, something I think you've forgotten on your climb up Honky's ladder.
Everybody come see the Black Panther get mad, hey!
The argument intensifies as Kenny tells Spencer that he doesn't care about his own people. Brenda and Frances overhear their argument, and Frances comes in to confront Spencer.
Spencer, stop it, damn it, that's my sister.
This is America. Love it or leave it.
Dude talks like a true bigot. Anyway, Brenda goes to check on Kenny, and Kenny complains to her about Spencer.
Brother-in-law's a jive Uncle Tom. How's that?
You think you're a jive black militant, so what?
Brenda apologizes for convincing him to come and tells him that if she would have known coming there would have caused so much commotion, she would have just come along with Drew. Kenny informs her that Drew didn't want to come either, and Brenda insinuates that the only reason he felt that way was because of the things Kenny told him. While Kenny tried to unload all his feelings about being there, Brenda got to the real issue at hand.
I know what this is about, Mr. Kenny Tate. It's about a 16-year-old boy you don't know how to talk to, and a dashiki you're afraid to take off.
Kenny couldn't take this dose of truth, so he ran away from her and his problems. We fast forward to Junior's friends, Daryl and pull up, and Drew and Junior came down to get in the car. Child, why did Junior come down with these super high-waisted overalls? Anyway, Junior introduced Drew to his friends, and it was awkward.
To meet my cousin, Drew from upstate.
You ever got to be kidding.
Drew, Jr., and his friends make it to the dance. Jr. quickly spots the girl he wanted to dance with, and Daryl headed off in another direction, leaving Drew to dance awkwardly by himself. Drew tries to pull a Junior with this young lady, but it doesn't go well for him.
Girl, you got on my favorite colors. Let's get on the dance floor so we can smoke it with your hot feet.
Are you waiting for a bus or what?
It's here where Drew sees the girl from the beach. We learn through Daryl and that her name is Lauren Kelly. They encourage Drew to go up to her and ask her to dance. As Drew begins to walk over, another guy walks up to her and they start to dance together. Drew saw this and turned to walk back, but Daryl and convinced him to butt in. He continues to walk up and tries to interrupt them, and it ends badly for him. The next morning, all the adults gather to eat breakfast. As Francis and Brenda are talking, Francis mentions how Spencer hates grits.
My Spence hates grits. He calls it plantation food.
Child. Evelyn asks Brenda if her and Kenny are having problems. She doesn't answer the question.
We have the same problems as every other family, Mama. That's all it is.
Shortly after, Spencer comes downstairs to tell Brenda that their psychiatrist friend can see them that morning. Drew comes downstairs just in time to hear Evelyn mention that the flame went out in the stove, and Drew attempts to help by restarting the flame.
I'll relight it.
What? No! Drew! No!
What?
Out!
I can't relight it?
Out! Get out of my kitchen! Out!
We fast forward to Drew and his parents seeing Dr. Wade, the psychiatrist. Dr. Wade asks Drew about his first impression of the island, and Drew isn't really impressed. She then asks if he has any friends, and this irritates Kenny. Kenny butts in and tells Dr. Wade that he doesn't have any friends, while Drew admits that he does have one, referring to Lago. His parents try to steer the conversation away from this mystery friend, and his dad mentions how Drew doesn't act like a normal teenager his age, which sparks an argument between him and Brenda.
Boy his age is supposed to be out playing ball or dating or racing. Hell, my boy is quoting dead white people.
Mr. T, and you would rather he were more like you when you were 16, a hoodlum in training?
Their argument is interrupted by several clocks. Why does she have so many? My goodness. But they mark the end of their session. Brenda attempts to pay Dr. Wade for the session, but she refuses, saying that it's on the house. She tells Drew to give the island a chance and encourages him to come back and talk whenever he wants. After their appointment ends, Drew's parents head off, leaving him alone. As Drew walks back to his bike, he talks to Lago, taking him out of his bag for a few seconds before placing him back in. Dr. Wade sees this as she looks out the window. We go to a couple playing tennis, and this is where we meet Harold and Heather, a married couple from the island. Harold has a wandering eye and is having a hard time staying focused on the game, which causes Heather to check him.
Come on, Harold, you're not even swinging.
All right.
Are you gonna play?
Are you gonna play? Heather?
Yes, I'm gonna play.
Okay, then
Get
I'm gonna
ready.
play.
Are you ready?
No, are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, let's play then.
Come on, let's go.
As they start back playing, Heather tries to hit the ball, but instead trips over a cooler, and Drew, who happens to be watching them play, helps her up and offers this poetic line.
Beauty of chivalry. 1,000 lights shine happily.
Funny how Drew was able to pull out poetry at a moment's notice. This is where we start to see little signs that Drew wasn't as delayed or off as everyone made him seem. And Harold didn't even come to check on his own wife, just stood there, not giving a damn. But it's clear that Drew liked what he saw. And why did Junior say this?
The beauty of chivalry? What is that shit?
Something I read somewhere.
You need to stop reading, talking that crap.
Anyway, Drew and Junior head off to the beach, and shortly after they get there, they spot Lauren Kelly. Drew was clearly infatuated with her. He goes over to speak to her, and of course, it's awkward. Drew tells Lauren that he saw her on the beach once. As she's talking to him, she notices her ex walking with another girl. She asks Drew for his name, not really paying attention to him because her eyes are glued on her ex. Drew, not taking the hint, starts giving her advice that she didn't ask for.
You get a better lift with your pirouettes if you were to jump instead of leap, Put it, jump, put it here. Your legs.
Junior was embarrassed for him. We fast forward to the family having a house party, and Spencer was having a time.
Oh, that's too nasty. That's too nasty. But I can't help it. I'm nasty. Do the doggy. Do the doggy.
Harold and Heather are there. As Heather walks away, Harold starts flirting with this lady on the couch. Dude wasted no time, and Drew is upstairs talking to Lago. Apparently, Lago was asking him why he wasn't downstairs dancing, and Drew claims that he's not in the mood. Probably too much going on down there. Shortly after, Junior brings a girl upstairs. She's clearly tipsy, and he's looking forward to taking full advantage. He creates an excuse for Drew to leave the room, and Drew catches the hint and exits. This is another sign that Drew is not as off as people made him seem. He could catch a hint. Maybe he's neurodivergent. I don't know. Drew walks to the beach to think, and Heather happens to be out there also and walks over to him. She thanks him for helping her earlier that day, and before she could say anything else, Harold came out and yelled at her to come on because he had work in the morning. He was always so rude to her. We fast forward to Junior and his friends dragging Drew to a mystery place, Jungle Beach, which happened to be a nude beach. And you already know they were so excited.
It ain't nothing but bitties and titties and titties.
Oh, and bitties and titties and titties. And titties. Bitties and titties and titties.
They dive onto this beach, literally, and they are shocked because this beach was not what they'd hoped it would be. This beach was occupied by a more mature crowd, and they were being so loud and disruptive. Drew ended up falling over and getting sand on this lady and Harold. Child. Harold was such a hoe. Anyway, Drew goes over to Dr. Wade's to talk, and Dr. Wade notices that Drew took a liking to her hair. She asks if he likes her hair because it's different, and he says yes. She notices that he likes things that are different. She offers to put locks in his hair and also takes this as the opportunity to talk to him about his mystery friend. She confesses that she saw him talking to his friend and asked to meet him. Drew introduced her to Lago, and Dr. Wade had a warm reception to him, which encouraged Drew to open up even more. She asked Drew if Lago was there when he started the fire in the garage, and Drew revealed that he was, and that Lago didn't try to talk him out of it because he was in on it. Turns out Drew was attempting to make rocket fuel, and it got out of hand. It was an accident, and clearly Drew felt really bad about it. Dr. Wade encourages him to open up and allow the world to meet the person Lago knew.
I know sometimes it seems as though people don't appreciate you for who you are. The ones who really, really count, they will catch up.
After their session ended, Drew rode his bike into town and saw Heather. He offered her a ride home on his bike since her philandering husband was late picking her up. We already know why. As Drew and Heather speed off on this bike, Lauren's ass sees them, and of course, this piques her interest. Drew and Heather arrive at Heather's place, and she offers to make him a drink to thank him. He sees some jazz records on the table and recognizes a few of them. He mentions how his dad introduced him to jazz, and he really likes it. Harold walks in shortly after and immediately feels like he's seen Drew somewhere, but he can't place him. As he takes a second look, he figures it out and offers him $20 as hush money. Now Drew was spooked and headed out. He doesn't take the money or the lemonade that Heather offered him. We fast forward to Drew and Kenny fishing and having small talk. It turns serious when Kenny asks him if he met any girls on the island. Kenny tells Drew that he can ask him anything, but I don't think he was prepared for this question.
What's a clitoris?
Now, Kenny always talked about how Drew wasn't anything like other teens his age and how he wished he would talk to him. And now that he is, he's blubbering through this whole thing. So, were you really ready for this? And he doesn't answer the question. He probably doesn't even know what or where it is his damn self. But he does offer Drew this tip.
It's like a guitar string when you pluck it.
Guitar string. But I don't see how can you pluck a...
Oh, yes, that's it. You got it.
After they return home from fishing, Drew's told that Lauren has summoned him. Child, he drops everything and heads over to her house. He was super excited.
Are you trying to break my door down?
Lauren immediately annoyed me. This chick was insufferable. I see why old boy left. She sees his bike and demands, not asks, for him to ride her around. Though this whole situation started off rocky, they end up having a good time. They go to the arcade and Lauren steps inside the photo booth to take some good pics. But unfortunately for her, she didn't like any of them.
Oh my God, that was just as bad. Okay, no! All right, I give up.
She urges Drew to come in and take the last pic with her, but Drew didn't help the situation at all.
Okay, yeah. Cheese.
We go to Francis, Spencer, Brenda, and Kenny playing tennis, and this is one of the funniest scenes of the whole movie. Spencer tries to show Kenny how to play, and Kenny is just not interested. Now, Spencer assumed that Kenny just didn't know how to play, but he quickly found out that that wasn't the case. Now that Spencer knows he can actually play, he wants to up the ante by betting him $100. We go back to Drew and Lauren has worked up an appetite. Drew offers to get pizza, but Miss Lauren wanted lobster, child. Lobster.
No, not lobster. Lobster is a little expensive. I don't have that type of money.
We go back to Kenny and Spencer, and Kenny is giving Spencer a run for his money, and Spencer's ankle is struggling to keep up. He really thought he was teaching Kenny something, but Kenny taught his ass. Spencer was bitter about losing to Kenny, so bitter that he said this.
New York sponge and cockroach.
I didn't quite get that. What?
And of course, this starts another argument between the two. Kenny calls tennis a game, and Spencer claims a Black Panther conned him. And it keeps going downhill when Spencer criticizes Kenny about his job as an informational officer, which is really a glorified copy machine attendant. And he even brought Drew into it by claiming he has some screws loose, which Brenda did not like. But Kenny quickly got him back for it.
Talk to your wife. She is the one who has been complaining about not getting a decent screw since she married your tight ass.
And his reaction was so funny.
Fuck you! Fucky you, you son of a bitch!
And then it got worse.
You know, Light City working, copy machine running, son of a...
Oh, hey, come on.
Now, at first, Francis asked Brenda to help her break them up, but at this point, too much had been said and done.
Come on, Brenda, help me get him apart before he gets killed.
Before who gets killed?
Before Spence kills your husband. Want him to fight? All right, then. Let him fight. Go ahead, honey. Kick his ass.
She's got a lot of faith in Spencer. Too much. Anyway, we go back to Lauren and Drew, and since Drew was too broke to buy her a lobster, Lauren has a more affordable way to get one.
Get me a lobster, all right? They keep the traps at the bottom, and it's not that deep. It's only 30 feet.
30 feet? I can't swim.
What if he really didn't know how to swim? She could have killed him over a lobster. I would have dragged her down with me to get it, but Drew's able to get the lobster, and we fast forward to them sitting on the beach, acting fool off of one lobster. Drew and her talk, and he learns that she was once in a commercial that he used to watch growing up. It was starting to get late, and Lauren teases Drew when he mentions it. Drew didn't want her parents to be mad at him for bringing her home late, which was respectable, but unfortunately, Lauren's mother could have cared less.
And as long as I don't get pregnant, she could care less.
Drew asks about her dad, and she tells him that he left them. Lauren asks about his parents and goes even further by asking which one he'd go with when they split. She didn't know anything about his parents, yet she pushed this idea on him that his parents were going to split up. That wasn't his reality. Lauren was toxic AF, but they bond over their conversation, and Drew asks her if she has a boyfriend, and Lauren told him no, which gave him hope. He brings Lauren home and invites her to the Bicentennial Festival as his date.
I was thinking maybe you'd like to be my date.
Okay, I'll go.
This date started off rocky, but somehow, some way, he brought out her sweet side, I guess. And when he gets home, Junior begs for details. When he tells Junior what truly happened, he's disappointed.
First, I went to pick her up. Then we went to the arcade. Then we cooked the lobster. We ate the lobster, and we just sat at the beach and built a fire and talked.
But Drew needed clarification.
Did you pop it?
No, we boiled it.
Drew coming in late sparks an argument between his parents, causing Drew to think about what Lauren mentioned earlier about choosing a parent. We fast forward to Junior, his friends, and Drew hanging out in town. They see Harold with another one of his clients, and Drew decides to follow them. He follows them to an alley where things get a little flirty. They were really about to get it on in the alley of all places. You couldn't even get a room? And Drew doesn't like this or Harold, so he goes to see Heather and tell her what's going on with her husband, but he couldn't seem to find the words.
Heather, I really have to tell you something. Well, you know, it's kind of like what gave me the whole thing in my mind.
Drew, listen, I really gotta go. Can we talk about this later? I gotta go.
It's here that Drew comes up with a plan for Harold. We go to Brenda walking to the beach to look for Kenny. She sees and asks her mom if she's seen him, and Evelyn tells her that she saw him walking on the beach earlier. When Brenda walks away to find him, Evelyn calls her and tells her she loves her. Now, where did this change even come from? She was so cold to her at first. We don't see what sparks this change. I wish we could have seen that. But Brenda finally finds Kenny and they start to talk. Brenda tells him that the world was a different place when they got together and mentions how it was so much easier for them to talk then, and she doesn't know how to get back there. She insists that they try and save their marriage, and Kenny suggests that they save it by remembering how it started. It's clearly going to take a joint effort, but Kenny asks this.
You don't believe that I ever stopped loving you, do you?
No. From here, things get better between them. Child, we go back to Drew, and he's rigged up a situation for Harold. Now, Harold thinks it's a normal day to hoe, but no. Things got interesting real quick. And this happens.
Say goodbye.
Child, he tears through the roof of his car and escapes. Drew rigged some fireworks to his car, which he set off, and it was hilarious. Drew is definitely creative. Then we go to Spencer's old dramatic ass. Now, what did this man do to you to cause you to have to wear a whole neck brace? Are you serious? Anyway, Kenny asks for the potato salad. He gets it and says thank you. Spencer asks for the chicken. He gets it and says nothing.
You're welcome.
I said thank you.
I didn't hear it.
Kenny takes one for the team and apologizes for what happened during their tennis game. Spencer, of course, doesn't apologize, but he does say this.
Learned a very important lesson that day. Never judge a book by its cover.
And this opens up a friendly conversation between the two.
I learned an important lesson too. Black Republicans can fight.
We fast forward to Drew preparing for his date with Lauren Kelly, and Junior mentions how his tie may be a bit too much. Junior also urges him to take a condom. the only good advice he's given him. And thank God he did. He runs out and rushes over to Lauren's, but when he gets there, she doesn't answer the door. We go to Heather and Harold's place, and Harold is yelling at Heather, per usual, rushing her to do something. And Heather finds a bottle of wine in his work bag, which serves as proof that he's been up to no good. He immediately starts gaslighting her.
I hate to hear you say it.
Tell the truth.
It's just you.
Be a man.
I am a man, okay? And I'm a...
Get out!
We go back to Drew, who's still sitting on Lauren's front steps. Shortly after, he notices a light coming from her room and peers in the window. Lauren is getting all flirty with her ex. This breaks Drew's heart, and what makes it worse is that Lauren sees him in the window crying. Drew walks to the beach and notices Heather's there. He comes up to talk to her, and she notices that Drew's not feeling his best.
You look like I feel.
Drew tries to walk away to let her be alone, but Heather asks Drew if it was him who rigged Harold's car. Drew admits it, and Heather thanks him with a kiss.
Thank you. Thank you.
And this is where things get weird. Let me remind you that Drew is 16 and Heather is very much a grown woman. Heather leads him onto another part of the beach, and they... Child.
Yeah.
And Drew was now no longer a virgin, or so they wanted us to believe, because we didn't see it. Didn't need to. And something I never thought about was that Lauren and Heather used Drew. Lauren used him as a distraction or backup for her boyfriend, and Heather used him to get her lick back from her cheating ass husband. Drew was just a means to an end for them, I guess. The next morning, Drew wakes up and Heather thanks him for his services and tells him goodbye. They don't hug or anything, just bye. Drew finally makes it to the house just in time to see his parents preparing to head out. From the minute his dad saw him, it was like he knew. He goes out to talk to him about his night and asks him where he'd been. Drew tells him he was out with a girl, and that was all Kenny needed to hear. He was just happy that Drew was doing normal things, I guess, with a grown-ass woman, no less. Junior comes out to find out about Drew's night, and Junior is shocked when he learns that Drew wasn't with Lauren, but with a whole other lady, and he did the thing. He nearly broke his neck trying to go inside to call his friends and tell them. The adults say goodbye to each other. There's even a warm exchange between Brenda and Evelyn. Again, we don't know what brought about this change. Brenda, Kenny, and Drew head out, and Junior was pissed because he didn't even get to hear any details. But before they leave the island, Drew stops by Dr. Wade's to tell her thank you. And Dr. Wade was the only one who truly took the time to hear him and see him. His parents were too busy bickering, wishing for a son they didn't have. They leave the island changed and improved, and this is pretty much the end of the movie. And here are my final thoughts. This is one of those films that I didn't watch much since initially seeing it. After watching for this review, I have a new love for it, and I see why it was so highly requested. I loved Drew as a character and also loved how we saw him blossom throughout the film. Initially, he was withdrawn and socially awkward, but by the end, he came into his own and allowed people to see the real him. Drew had so many awesome qualities that the people around him never even noticed because they couldn't get past the fact that he was different, especially his parents. Drew's parents, specifically his dad, Kenny, never allowed Drew the space to be open and to express his true self. His dad couldn't accept that Drew was different and wasn't acting like what he considered normal for a 16-year-old boy. I believe Drew used Lago to release his inner thoughts and to feel connected to someone or something since he didn't feel connected to his parents. Drew was going through his awkward teenage phase along with possibly being neurodivergent, which at that time people didn't know or address these kind of things. Child, honestly, it's a lot of us walking around here with undiagnosed ADHD and autism due to being told by parents and teachers that we were just bad, or we talked too much during class, or we didn't pay attention. But let me get back on the topic. Drew's parents were going through a rough patch in their marriage. They were adjusting to their individual changes as a couple. For example, his dad was having a hard time adjusting to life as an ex-Black Panther. Their involvement with the Panthers not only put a strain on their marriage, but also caused a rift between Brenda and her family. Brenda's mom was so cold to her when she first got to the island. I hate that we didn't see why she warmed up to her towards the end. I would have loved to see how or why that happened. And Spencer, child. Spencer was your typical uppity, ignorant asshole who looked down on Kenny. He always tried to belittle Kenny's passion for helping his own people. Spencer had the pull yourself up by the bootstraps mentality, but he didn't get that it was people like Kenny who fought just so he could live on that island in ignorant bliss. Spencer was a dick, and I hated how he looked down on Drew too, making comments about him having a screw loose, taking things way too far. He earned that punch for sure. The only good thing he did was introduce Drew to Dr. Wade. Dr. Wade was the only person who saw Drew and allowed him the space to be himself and to open up to her. She encouraged him to be himself and not be afraid to show up as himself in the world. Dr. Wade saw that Drew was just your average teenager who was insecure and awkward. That's all. He was around people who wanted him to be everything but himself. Now, let's get to Heather and Lauren. As I mentioned before, Lauren and Heather both used Drew. Lauren was toxic and controlling. She only took interest in Drew to take her mind off of who she truly wanted. Maybe she wanted to be seen with him to get her ex's attention. I'm not sure, but I don't put that past her. And Heather used Drew to make her feel better after finding out her husband was cheating on her. But why with the whole child though? Like, why was that your first choice? And then the fact that Drew lost his virginity to her after it happened, they both just walked away and that was it. He deserved more for his first time. I hated that for him because it should have been a more loving, intentional experience with someone his age who cared for him. All in all, this was a good movie, a forgotten gem that should be acknowledged more. And the soundtrack was amazing as well. Anyway, that's it, y'all. Thanks for watching this review. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. There won't be a new recap next week, but as always, I'll be back before you know it. See you next time, you guys. Bye.